10 years, $503 million. That's the contract the Kansas City Chiefs just gave to Patrick Mahomes. A contract that is not only the richest quarterback contract, but the richest contract in all of the 4 major sports leagues. In the past decade, the quarterback market has exploded, going from the highest paid quarterback in 2010 being around the $20 million per year mark, to the highest paid quarterback salary in 2020 hovering over the $40 million per year mark. With the NFL's cap seemingly spiraling upwards each year, players have begun to ask for an even bigger share of the pie. In comparison, the Colts' Jacoby Brissett, a mid-tier bridge quarterback, signed a $15 million per year contract in 2019 that would have placed him 6th in terms of quarterback salary in 2010. Another bridge quarterback in Mike Glennon, too, earned a $15 million per year contract from the Chicago Bears in 2017 to be their starting quarterback. In today's modern NFL, even average quarterbacks can secure a bag of around $15 to $20 million per year to realistically play a couple mediocre games. While the Glennons and Brissetts of the QB world sign their multi-million-dollar deals, the elite quarterbacks feast to the tune of possibly $40 million per year deals. Guys like Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, and an honorary mention to Dak Prescott. But before you can understand how a guy like Mahomes can get $500 million from the Chiefs, you have to look back to the most influential quarterbacks of the past decade who helped shape the current QB market. After an incredible run in which the 49ers would go a perfect 5-0 under Garoppolo at the end of the 2017 season, the pending free agent would demand to want paid, and get paid he would. After only playing 5 games as a starter, Jimmy G was made the highest paid player in the NFL at the time, signing a deal which would pay him an average annual value of $27.5 million. It was asinine to think that a guy who had only played less than half a season for the team was then promptly handed the richest contract for his position. Hindsight is 2020, but the 49ers have made out like bandits with this deal after Jimmy led the Niners to the Super Bowl in only his first full season as a starter. His deal only gets better as more teams spend up to $30 million on their quarterbacks, while the 49ers have a guy at less than the value who has proven his ability to succeed despite what many media outlets would tell you. It's a lot of blind faith in the hopes that your quarterback will be able to step up and be worth his price tag. But a handful of games that showcase high enough talent and a significant worth to your team will bring with it a price. Finally free from the franchise tag situation in Washington, Cousins entered the market hoping for the price he felt he was worth that was so oftenly denied to him by the Washington front office. After seeing Garoppolo get his deal, Cousins signed with the Minnesota Vikings for $28 million per year, $500,000 more than Garoppolo, but with one key difference. Part of what makes Cousins' deal unique is that he had negotiated that the contract be fully guaranteed. Every bit of that $84 million the Vikings signed him to was to be paid to Cousins, with no loopholes that would allow the Vikings to only pay him a percentage of what they had signed him to. For years, many teams had denied giving fully guaranteed contracts to NFL players, unlike their NHL and MLB counterparts. Cousins had opened the door for many other players to negotiate for more guaranteed money, which would greatly benefit the next round of QBs and contract extensions. Matt Ryan would be the first to break the $30 million per year barrier for quarterbacks, along with having $100 million of his contract be guaranteed. After all, he had won an MVP award and led the Falcons to the Super Bowl. Such talent deserves just compensation. Now there was a standard for how much a truly elite quarterback was worth. QBs with an MVP award and Super Bowl appearance were truly deserving of the $30 million plus per year contracts. It made sense. The big bucks go to the guy who has proven he's the most important player and led the team to the biggest game of the year. While at the time this was the highest contract in terms of annual average value, it really set the floor for other elite quarterbacks to get paid for less achievements than guys like Ryan had. After the Rams' Super Bowl run, many key players were asking for pay raises, and boy did the Rams open the coffers to pay guys like Cooks, Gurley, and most notably, Goff. It seemed like an easy decision. McVay had made Goff look like a possible MVP quarterback, and MVP quarterbacks get paid like MVP quarterbacks. With the knowledge of Cousins' deal being fully guaranteed and the other QBs in the league getting $100 million contracts, Goff too would sign an extension that would garner him $110 million guaranteed. It would set the NFL record for most guaranteed money ever handed out to a single player and wouldn't be broken until the recent Mahomes deal. Suddenly now every good QB would demand to be paid higher than the last good QB signed to the highest QB contract, with the ammunition that other QBs got an X amount of their contract fully guaranteed despite being less talented than they are. Every new quarterback deal would reset the market and allow for the elite quarterbacks to ask for even more money than the last. Russell's negotiations with the Seahawks would see the beginning of talks of a potential percentage of cap average annual value that would see to it that as the league's salary cap raised, so would a player's salary with it. This posed a tremendous risk to teams who would rather prefer that a player only take up a number of the cap rather than a percentage of it every year. And for NFL GMs, it was obvious. Every couple of years, a new quarterback would reset the market, and the guy you signed for the highest value 3 to 4 years ago is now suddenly relatively underpaid compared to modern players. Part of the risk-reward scenario of betting on your quarterback is that in that 3 to 4 year window, they will eventually be buried in the mob of QB contracts that he's considered a steal for his production. Although rumors would come out that Mahomes too was looking for a percentage of the cap, his deal ultimately will look like a ridiculous bargain considering the constant rise in QB contracts and the long-term attached with it. If Mahomes can continue his production into the late 2020s and NFL QBs are earning possibly $60 million a year, the Chiefs will have won big on their big gamble in convincing Mahomes not to take a percentage of the cap. All 5 of these quarterbacks were instrumental in raising the QB market and ensuring greater guaranteed money and that QBs are paid accordingly to their talent. These 5 aren't even the end to the rise of future contracts, as we could see more players potentially negotiating $40 million per year contracts and maybe even as high as $50 million per year contracts. With the upcoming TV deal, the hope is that the league will only get richer and players will be paid even more. So don't be surprised if someone breaks the $50 million barrier and Mahomes' deal becomes dirt cheap.